so much. I'm happy to be here. I travel the country. And when I'm in Europe, often they say to me, what is it about the American people that weds your country to vengeance? Why is the United States one of the last countries in the world to still have the death penalty? And what I've discovered in these 20 years of crisscrossing this nation, talking to all kinds of audiences of people, is the American people are not wedded to the death penalty at all. They never think about it deeply. It's not one of the moral issues that does hit most people personally. And so if something doesn't hit you personally, it's easy to just kind of surf on the news. Well, terrible crime, execution happened, justice done, and the end of reflection. My own journey, which I tell about in Dead Man Walking, is as a Catholic nun, becoming to understand that the gospel of Jesus is much more than just about being charitable to each other, be kind. It's about knowing about justice and what are the systems of oppression that are putting people down and keeping people down and that lead to violence and lead to human lives being a lot shorter than they're supposed to be. And so I've learned a lot. First of all, from African Americans in the inner city of New Orleans who were my teachers, and then meeting a man on death row, writing him, and then being there during the process when the state of Louisiana killed him in the electric chair 2 years later. And I got to meet the guards. I got to meet the people who were part of this process. The crime he had done was unspeakably terrible. He and his brother had killed innocent teenage kids. And so now all the rush was, okay, we're going to do justice. We're going to kill them for killing the kids. And here are the guards in the death chamber. Here's one guard saying to me, the man we're killing tonight is a different man from the man who came in 15 years ago. Here is Kendall Cootie, who was the supervisor on death row, who had participated in 5 executions, saying I come home afterwards and I sit in my lazy boy chair and I can't sleep and I can't eat because they're defenseless. And I know I'm killing a defenseless person. And I know their crimes, and I'm horrified by their crimes. I know them all on death row. But when you're close to it like that, and you got a defenseless person and you're taking them out and you kill them. When we started down the road of the death penalty, when the Supreme Court put it back in '76, 4 years earlier they had overturned it in the Furman decision. In 1972, saying the way it was applied was arbitrary and capricious. It was like being hit by lightning. So they said, what we're going to do is we're going to firm up the criteria, that it's going to be more guided discretion, so that it's applied evenly and predictably as law is supposed to be. And so they set out these new guidelines in gray. And it was, you're not supposed to go for the death penalty for any murder. It's supposed to be worst of the worst murders. So your state, like my state, Louisiana, and the 34 states that still have the death penalty, wrote out a statute when you're going to apply the death penalty. The one you wrote in Ohio seems to be very broad, so that it's kind of a catch-all. If somebody wants to go for the death penalty, you can find the wording in the statute to say, yeah, this is a death penalty case. And then we got to the thing of trying to practice it. We've done it almost 30 years now, practicing now, applying this criteria. And what have we found? It's no different in Ohio than it is in the other states. What we found is that you can always find in every state pockets, because you have to leave up to the discretion of prosecutors to apply the law. It's up to them if they're going to go for the death penalty or not. And so you have pockets, and you can name them here in Ohio, where you have a high degree of seeking the death penalty, and right next door they're not seeking the death penalty. So what happened to the evenness, where you're going to do away with arbitrariness and capriciousness? And that's not just true of you. In Texas, Harris County, Houston area, it's been the buckle of the death penalty belt. The Bible belt and the death belt are the same in the United States. The states that practice slavery, the states that lynch the most people, the states that quote the Bible the most, are the big executing states. Now, I don't know where Ohio fits in this, but y'all are really in there as some of the top executors in the country. I'm trying to understand. Y'all will be better to understand what's going on in your state. But here's the thing. We've been at it 30 years, and there's a shift happening in the country. It began in 2001, where the number of executions began to be cut in half. Even Harris County last year, they would every year get 48 death sentences, last year 2. Because jurors know they have life without parole. One of the big things we have to do is educate the people. They think life without parole is real. They think, oh, they're going to be out in 7 years and they're going to kill again. Safety's one thing, that we have a right to be safe. They have to know life without parole here in Ohio is real, and people can be safe without our having to imitate the violence and do the killing. And the other thing that we're learning about is in the states that have done away with the death penalty in the last 5 years. New York did it first, New Jersey did it next, New Mexico did it next, Illinois was the latest. They always have a study. It's always preceded by, let's take a look at our state and just see how this thing is working or not working. What are the patterns we see? Who actually goes to death row? And one of the things you're almost surely going to find, because it's the same in all the states, is almost always you're going to find that the people who end up on death row are poor people. Almost always, 8 out of every 10 are going to be people who kill white people. Not to say the crimes aren't terrible, but almost always. And then almost always you're going to say in a certain geographic county. That's what's really in the lottery for determining the death penalty. Not this supposed criteria of evenness, where it's not going to be arbitrarily and capriciously applied. When a state does a study, and this was initiated, am I right, by your own state Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. When you got your state Supreme Court study, let's take a look at the process. Nobody's seen more of those cases than the state Supreme Court, because in every death case, there's an automatic direct appeal to the state Supreme Court to review every one of them. So this study is initiated by your own state Supreme Court. So you're going to be looking at patterns. One of the things is, what some states have done is that while the study's going on, to stop executions, do a freeze on executions. We want to urge the governor to do this, just so we can take a good, long, hard look at how justice is really practiced in Ohio, and whether or not we need this or not. So a moratorium is just a way of saying we're not ending it. We just have enough signals that there's something wrong in its practice, or uneven, or unfair, or whatever words you want to use in its practice. The man killed this morning, or this afternoon at 2:04, this man, Reginald Brooks, had a history of mental illness. I don't know how much it came out at his trial. I don't know what kind of defense he got. I don't know if he had a good mitigation person documenting how this man was mentally ill. And he was killed today in Ohio. And we have to look at all those factors. There's never just the crime. As terrible as this crime, he killed his 3 kids. How could it get worse than that? But culpability. Who's the man who did the killing? The culpability. And we are beginning, and it's happening around the country, that we're beginning to shut the death penalty down. Death sentences are on the wane, and now here in Ohio, you're beginning a process of a long look and conscience of the people at this. How can we be safe as a community without having the state imitate the violence? And all of our names are on that gurney. All of our names are on that gurney this morning, because we're a democracy. And if we're not working to change something, we're complicit in it. So I want to urge everybody to get involved with this. I stood with the students this morning from Lowell. We got on a bus at 6:15 and we stood outside those prison gates. We saw the hearse pull up. Sister Alice showed us where the process was going to be. The victim's family's going to come in. They're going to witness this. It's worthwhile thinking about how this helps the victims' families or not. You wait, they were waiting, 20 years to see this justice happen? Can that heal a victim's family? What happens to them in this process of their wound being opened in public, so the media can come to them every time there's a change in the status of the case? So finally they're summoned today after 20 years, and they're going to have a privileged place to watch as Reginald Brooks is killed. And then you have, on on the other side, the state's witnesses brought into it, the guards who had to do the killing for us this morning and bring him from the cell to strap him down on the gurney, practice when he goes peacefully, practice when he fights them all the way, as happened with Lewis Williams here in this state several years ago. And then in the end, what do you have? And you have the hearse who takes his body away, and we have a person who's been killed in the name of justice. You want to look at the cause. Most prosecutors that I've talked to across this country say that the death penalty or a capital case is the Cadillac of the criminal justice system. You don't just have one trial, you have two. The sentencing part of the trial can last as long as the other. It's terribly expensive. And cost is not just a practical issue. Martin Luther King used to say the most moral document you ever look at is a budget. Is the money going into a culture of life in Ohio? Helping at-risk kids, helping people get health care, helping people get decent housing? Or is it going into the machinery of death? And for what effect? To what purpose? What does it really mean? And I want to give you this in with this little thing of hope. The people get it. It's not that the people are wedded to and want to see the death penalty no matter what. Bring them into reflection. As happened in Moeller Gymnasium last night, 400 people, parents and students, going through the thing of the death penalty and getting it. We can be safe without killing. We can be safe without killing. And so I want to urge you, it's a long process, but it's a life-giving process, and we'll learn a lot as we go together. So I want to commend the representatives, Celeste and Antonio, who are leading the charge here, and all the people who are present here today, and encourage you in this journey to learn and to help the people through it. And they're going to come out on the right side of this issue just as they do on the other life issues in this state. Thank you.